Hi, I'm Andy McIllvaine, Senior Editor for Human Resource Executive Magazine. And with me today is Pat Milligan, who leads the When Women Thrive initiative for Mercer. Today, we're going to be talking about women in technology. Pat, welcome.
Thanks, Andy. Good to be here.
Mercer's When Women Thrive report finds that women represent only 18% of the average tech firm's executives and only 34% of the workforce. What do you think is behind this underrepresentation?
So we spent a lot of time yesterday at the Women in HR Tech Conference unpacking why the low representation. And I'd say, Andy, there are three fundamental issues that we face with women in technology. First and foremost, we do not attract enough women to the industry. So we're not looking at sourcing women more broadly, looking at different competencies and profiles for women. Secondly, when we get them in, for whatever reason, we do not promote women in tech at the same rates that we promote men. And we often lose our women at critical rates in their career. So we really have to fix three things. We need to source more women from a talent perspective. We need to promote them. But really importantly, we need to convince them that they can spend a career in technology through all of their different life phases. And we just have not done a good enough job on that.
What do you think HR leaders should be doing more of in this respect?
So we often put the responsibility on HR leaders, but I would actually share that this is got to be a business leader, a combined business leader focus. So you need your senior executives, you need marketing, you need sales, and you need HR as the champion. But first and foremost, I think HR plays two very important roles. They play the role of the organization's conscience and the educator of how do we actually address this issue and how do we address it in a way that everyone feels like they can participate in the conversation, not just women, but men and other diverse populations. So they've got to create a climate where people feel that they can have really authentic conversations about this issue. And then secondly, I think HR plays such a critical role looking now at all of these HR processes and figuring out where are the inherent biases. One of the most exciting things about the HR Tech Conference this year is how many of these technologies actually help us take bias out of the way we source and select talent. And so I think HR can play both of those roles, culture and conscious, but then very practically looking at how we can use technology to take some of those unconscious and inherent biases out of the way we look at talent, we acquire it and we promote it.
Now, Pat, you're aware, of course, that some folks, I'm thinking, of course, of the engineer at Google, James Damore, say women on average may be less suited to roles in technology because they're less analytical, maybe not as willing to sacrifice work-life balance as men. How do you respond to that?
So first and foremost, let's not focus on one person and one memo, right? Because I think it's pretty easy to make someone either a scapegoat or the crux of this. What I would say is that we lead this conversation often with data and analytics. There's no argument about the data and the analytics. When you look at the numbers of women, the pay of women, the promotion rates, you can't argue with the data. That said, I'm not a neuroscientist, but I think there is this whole science side of this that people only want to see and hear what they're comfortable seeing and hearing. And
confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias. And so part of what we've got to be clear about is I can't change your viewpoint on this issue with just hitting you over the head with data. I need to engage you in this conversation and I need to really understand why are you resistant to the data that's so compelling. So when we work with clients, we really try to get them to engage their middle managers, particularly men, much more emotionally because the first thing we see is that really well-intentioned men will argue with the data. And the data is irrefutable. So we've got to do a better job of making it about what is it about this story that you don't believe, or why do you not want to believe it? Are you threatened? Do you feel that it's a win-loss? The women and other diverse people win, but the men lose. So really, we've got to make it safe that when someone asks, puts a point of view, I get to explore, help me understand why you would look at this data this way. So I think there's a lot of neuroscience that we've got to think through, and I think there's a lot of behavioral things we've got to focus on.
Mm-hmm. So there's a need for honest, open conversations.
Honest, open conversations and a safe zone. I'm going to use that phrase. I mean, I used this phrase yesterday. We're creating an echo chamber where like-minded people who care about this issue all talk to each other. The reality is, I need to look in the mirror about the way I'm framing this issue, but I need to allow you to actually hold up the way you see this issue and make it safe to say, look, I think this is really not my reality, and make it just a much healthier conversation. Right now, it's almost like you're a bad person, a bad leader, a bad manager, and a bad guy if you actually challenge this issue. And we've got to get past that.
How do you feel, Pat? Optimistic, pessimistic, none of the above, about the progress that technology companies are making in this area?
Look, it's a great question. I think if you look simply at the data, as I said, what we've done to date will literally not change the future trajectory. I put up a sign yesterday, 170 years. It'll take 170 years in this industry to achieve gender equity. And none of us actually want to be working on this issue in 170 years. Certainly I don't. I think we have to remain optimistic that the business case is incredibly compelling. When you look at who are the consumers of technology, such a huge percentage of the consumers are women and other diverse populations. So the best companies know that they need that diversity of thought. They need leaders, not just functional leaders, but engineers, marketing leaders, sales leaders who actually represent the customer, and we women are a huge percentage of that. So I'm optimistic that the business case is solid and that senior executives, boards of directors, and CEOs get it. We have to work harder on middle managers, and we have to work harder on the culture that allows women and men to equally take advantage of some of the great work-life programs that tech has. What we're really seeing is men are raising their hands saying, I want more work-life flexibility, I want parental leave. When men start to take advantage the way women do, I think we'll see a lot more progress, and I'm optimistic about that.